Welcome to Realm Painters. Well, it's been a little while since I've done any Mechanicus painting. I've been kind of on the sister train for a while. But recently I did get these Catapron Beechers for my birthday, so I just thought, why not start these off by making the first one as tutorial. So this tutorial is a bit step heavy since I did a little bit more than just the basics, which includes battle damage. However, this is a good tutorial for just Mechanicus vehicles in general. But if you do want to see more AdMech videos, please let us know by liking and subscribing, and also comment down below what other AdMech I should paint. But other than that, let's get started. Let's get priming out of the way by priming him in Chaos Black Primer. Now we'll be painting this Catapron in three main sections. First his tracks, second his torso, and lastly his little noggin. I'm basically going from bottom up by starting on the tracks. So our first paint we'll be starting with will be Leadbelcher. With this in a small dry brush, I'm going to start by dry brushing the tracks. Make sure you get both the top section and the sides. It's also up to you how shiny you want the tracks, depending on how much dry brushing you do. I personally lean on the more shiny side. Also, while I have the dry brush out, I'll also paint the metal sections up on the top. Then, let's bring out some Nuln Oil and wash all the silver sections we just painted. And once that's dry, I like to go and wash the middle of the tracks with Agrax Earthshade to make them appear more dirty from the terrain. Lastly, for the tracks, either dry brush over the tracks lightly with Ironbreaker, or just edge highlight Ironbreaker with a regular brush. Now let's start on the red panels. With Corn Red, give those panels a solid base coat. Make sure you water the paint down slightly so you avoid clumping. In my experience, this did take about 5 to 6 coats for full opacity, but trust me, it's totally worth it. After you get it to the opaqueness you want, take an equal amount of Rakelin Flesh Shade and Lamian Medium and wash all of the corn. Once dried, I'll be using Evil Sun Scarlet to edge highlight all of the edges. I like to use the box art as reference, but you can edge as many edges you want, or how little you want. Once you edge highlight all the sections you want, I went ahead and with Agrax Earthshade, dirty up the red by pooling it in the creases and sections like around the rivets to make them pop. You can also put this anywhere you like. The next step is optional, however, if you want to try and add some nicks and scratches on the plates, use Abaddon Black to add blotches on the edges, mostly on the bottom sections of the sidetrack plates, as well as a few scratches near the top areas, including the top plates at the front. Once you add all the scratches and nicks, go ahead with Evil Sun Scarlet and paint under the black lines for the scratches and then a full outline on the nicks. This will make the material look like it was actually nicked away with the light refracting around the edges. And the red section should be complete. But before we go ahead onto the other section of the model, let's paint the mechanic symbols on the sides real quick. Starting with white, I use Vallejo specifically. Paint half of the symbol. Make sure they are on the correct sides of the symbol. I just use the box art as reference, but as well as avoiding the eye sockets so they are kept black. Then with Abaddon Black, paint the opposite sides. Next up, let's get the front panels done by painting the trim with Hatchet Copper. And then once the copper is all painted down, give it a quick wash of Reikland Flesh Shade. Then I like to highlight parts of the copper with Ironbreaker, mostly on the top edges in the front section, the rivets, and any edges you want to highlight. While we're painting the front area, let's get these two silver nubs out of the way by painting them with Lead Belcher. Then with Nuln Oil, just give them a quick wash. Then once dried, as usual, I like to edge highlight them with Ironbreaker. Now, before we get into the bottom of the Cataphron, let's get this section in the back done real quick. We'll start off with painting the base section of the exhaust and the wire ends with Lead Belcher. Also, don't forget to paint these little brackets between the exhausts as well. And then with Hatchet Copper, paint the exhaust cover. The washes we'll use for the silver and copper will be Nuln Oil and Reikland Flesh Shade, before we go ahead and edge highlight. On the edge highlighting, we'll first go with Ironbreaker and highlight all the edges on the exhaust, the rivets, and the wire ends. Then, with the same color, highlight the top and bottom edge. You can also edge around the holes, but honestly, that can be optional and I was kind of lazy at the time. Now we'll start on the wires. With Retributor Gold, paint some of the wires. I use the box art as reference. Then with Abaddon Black, use a thin brush to paint on the stripes. I personally like using Retributor Armor for yellow because if you do mess up the stripes, the gold easily fixes any mistakes you do, but you can always use a regular yellow. With all the other wires, use Abaddon Black to clean them up. The last section we'll need to do will be the bottom section at the front. I use Ushabti Bone and a drop of Lahmian Medium to water it down, since I prefer painting it in multiple coats for the pigment in order for it to not get all textured. This did take me about 3 layers to get it fully opaque. Once you get all those layers down, use a 1:3 ratio of Lahmian Medium and Seraphim Sepia to wash the Ushabti Bone. Once that's all dry, I like to go ahead with straight Seraphim Sepia and do little dollops of the wash all over the rivets and then on the creases on the panel. Now highlight all the edges and rivets with Wraithbone. Now this is optional, but if you want to add nicks and cracks in the paint, just use Rhinox hide to blotch on the edges and some slashes in the panels. Then once you get enough nicks and scratches to your liking, go ahead with Wraithbone to highlight underneath the Rhinox to give it more dimension. Lastly, for the bottom of this model, I'm going to quickly give these metal pieces right inside this area a coat of lead belcher and a wash of Nuln oil, and the bottom section is done. Now onto the top part. With this section, I'll start by doing a quick dry brush of lead belcher on some of the bigger silver sections. I wanted to get this done first before the red sections, so I wouldn't need to worry about painting over the reds on these big sections later on. I'll be dry brushing the front of the gun, the nub on the back of the gun's little claw, and the top of the backpack. Now that we got all the lead belcher base down, let's continue on to painting the red panels. This will include the chest section, the gun, the arm, and the backpack. Make sure to lightly water down the paint to avoid clumping, but we'll take a few coats, probably about 4 or so. Once you get that fully opaque, we'll do an equal amount of Reikland Flesh Shade and Lamian Medium and wash all of the red panels. Then once that's dry, I like to use straight Reikland Flesh Shade and wash most of the crevices and those little line divots on the stomach and gun. The last wash we'll do will be on the rivets with Agrax Earthshade. Now that you got all the washes done, use Evil Sun Scarlet and highlight all of the edges and rivets you like. I like using the box art as reference. Heads up, you should also paint the panel that's under the icon on his chest with the same red recipe. I just forgot to paint that until later on. Next up, let's go back to painting the metallics. We'll start off with finishing off the silver sections. There will be a lot of random bits and bobs that will be painted silver, including these little ports around their body, like this one on their chest, then the tube connectors, some tubes, and other knickknacks on them. As usual, I do look at the box art as reference. Then once you get all the silver put down, give it all a wash of Nuln oil. Then after all that's dried, edge highlight with Ironbreaker. Next up will be Hashik Copper. This should go onto the trim of the chest, the left arm, the little nodules on the right arm gun, and then the wires on the backpack. After all that's done, give those all a wash of Reikland. Lastly, use Ironbreaker to highlight some of the edges, including the collar, pauldrons, and rivets. We'll do some cleaning up after all of the painting with Abaddon Black on the fabric, on his left arm, his chest, the box of the gun, and then big multi-wire connecting the gun to the backpack. Then with Administratum Gray, highlight all of those edges. Also, with a small dry brush, make sure to lightly brush most of the ribbed wires so only the gray catches onto the lifted edges. But with that big wire in the back, I do highlight only some sections to it, so as if the light is reflecting at a certain angle, and I just use a regular brush. Now we'll get those Mechanicus symbols done by painting the corresponding sides white, which I do use Vallejo white and Abaddon black. Before I continue onto the head, I'll finish up a few wires and lights that he has by starting off with Mephiston red. There will be quite a few wires that will be red, which will include the 2 on his left arm, a couple in the front section in the back, and some on top. Then with some Evil Sunz Scarlet, do some highlighting in the middle of the wire surfaces. Then we'll get the hazard stripes done by base coating them in Retributor Gold. Once they all have been dried, go ahead with Abaddon black, and with a thin brush and slightly watered down paint, paint the stripes. Don't worry if you do mess up, since Retributor Gold easily covers over black. Next, with Temple Guard blue, paint these 2 light bulbs on the gun. Then with a mixture of Temple Guard blue and white, gradually lighten the value farther up the bulb. I usually start with a 3:1 blue and white until it's 1:3 blue and white. Now we can finish this guy up by doing the head. We'll start with the skin by watering down Wraithbone and painting about 3 layers on the flesh sections till it's opaque. Once it has full coverage, we'll give him a wash with a ratio of about half and half Coelia green shade and Lamian medium. Once that fully dries, I like to outline his head with a more opaque wash of the green shade for a nice contrast around the head. Then onto the armor, we'll start with Corn Red and paint most of the section, including his little antenna on the right side. Like the other red sections we've painted, we'll give him a wash of watered down Rakeland all over the red. And once that's completely dry, go ahead with Evil Sunz Scarlet and highlight the edges. Then there should be a few sections in his head armor that will be silver, so with Lead Belcher, paint the nub on the antenna, the intersection of his head armor, and then the whole earpiece on the left side. After that, give all that a wash of retinol oil. Then optionally, edge highlight those sections with Ironbreaker. Next, onto the last metallic section for the head, which will be Hashut Copper, paint the staple-like metal pieces on the top ridge of the head armor. Then give those a wash of Rakeland Flesh Shade. The very last part of this tutorial will be the blue lens for their eye. With Temple Guard Blue, paint the entire lens. with a mixture of white and blue, add the little highlight on the top corner of the lens. And your Cataphrone breacher is complete! And just like that, you know how to paint the Cataphrone breachers. So complex in theory, but it's simple in practice. It's fine. But if you are trying to make a cheaper list, you'll have a bunch of these in your army, so it's good to know how to paint them, and paint them in the level to which you're proud of. I hope this tutorial gave you some confidence to paint your Cataphrone breachers, and if it did, or you at least found this video entertaining, please like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments below what you'd like to see next. Because we're curious what you think. But other than that, see you in another realm.